Amy and Kelle, I definitely challenge you to take the movie survey.
Challenge accepted. Let's get started. Okay, so I think I remember the first film I ever saw in theaters. I'm pretty sure it was Beauty and the Beast, which was a really good film to see. I think my cousins took me. I was like 3 or 4, so it's kind of a fuzzy memory. I remember more about the bathroom than the actual film. But if that is the first film that I ever saw in theaters, which I'm pretty sure it is, it makes a lot of sense as to why those are so important to me. I agree with Leah that it's really hard to have a favorite movie, but the one I usually use when I answer this question is The Sound of Music. It was my favorite movie growing up. Julie Andrews was just enchanting and wonderful, and how lucky were my parents that my favorite movie happened to be like 4 hours long, so they only had to watch it twice a day as opposed to like those little 90-minute ones that kids want to watch over and over and over. But if we're talking about cinematically, like, what film do I think is best constructed? That answer, surprisingly enough, is going to be Hot Fuzz. That movie is so perfect. The parallelism from the beginning to the end, the character development, the twist ending that's actually really a twist. I love that movie. It is like the perfect movie. It is the bar against which I judge pretty much every movie ever. Ooh, this question, equally hard. There's a couple of them for very different reasons. MASH for nostalgia's sake, because, you know, I watched that with my parents a lot and it was on a lot, so it was what we would watch. My dad and I would watch while my mom was making dinner through pretty much all of high school. Then there's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which, how do I explain my love for Buffy? So, funny story about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When I graduated from college, I got a job in the Twin Cities and I had to move up there and I didn't know anybody. And I worked 12-hour days, so I really didn't have any time to make any friends, so I was pretty much alone. And I would just consistently watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer over and over again because it was like having friends. The most recent one I can think of is The Fault in Our Stars. That was a really interesting one to go to because I went with my husband Matt and my friend Taylor, and pretty much we were surrounded by teenage girls who were brought there by their parents, and it was really interesting to see who cried when, because every time something was going on between Hazel and Augustus, the teenage girls would cry, and anytime Hazel had a scene with her parents, like, the parents would cry, and I was really surprised to find myself crying more on the parents' side than on the Augustus and Hazel side. Harry Potter. I'm sorry, was I supposed to think about that? No, it's more fair to say that I'd prefer to climb into the Harry Potter book world than into the Harry Potter movie world, but still. Also probably the Serenity world, because it's pretty similar to ours as far as politics goes, but you get spaceships and other planets, so that would be pretty cool. Okay, so this one stumped me for a lot longer than I thought it should, because at first I was like, well, maybe Triss from Divergent, because, you know, she was scared to do a thing, but she did it anyway, and she kind of owned it, and I was like, yeah, but that was kind of that whole, oh, here, you're special, and kind of run with the fact that you're special thing. And then I was like, oh, you know, Anne Hathaway's Catwoman from Dark Knight Rises, and she was pretty cool, because I really like neutral characters when it comes to the whole spectrum of good, evil, lawful, neutral, and chaotic, and I like true neutral characters who are just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna look out for me, and if being good is helpful, great, and if it's not, because those characters tend to be a bit more complex. But if I'm gonna be really, really honest with myself, the character I most idolized growing up was Maria von Trapp from The Sound of Music, harkening back to that whole favorite movie thing, because she is terrified. Like, she sings a whole song at the beginning of the movie about how terrified she is and kind of lies to herself and says, I have confidence in me. I have confidence in confidence alone, which is a thing that I've tried to hold on to because it's really terrifying to do new things, and sometimes you just have to lie to yourself and say, you know what, I'm confident for confidence's sake, and here we go. So my biggest influence as far as film on my personal filmmaking process and my writing process has been everything that Joss Whedon has ever done. Basically, he takes a trope, he looks at the trope and says, why is this a trope? And then he turns it on its head and does really creative, exciting things with it. And that is a thing that I try to do a lot. Like my movie Shambles, I'll link it below. That one was me thinking about life in a very specific set of circumstances and how life would become, and thinking about normalizing things that we find fantastical. And that's a thing that I really strive for in both my short films and in my writing. And just, trying to think a little bit further outside of the box and not necessarily going the dark and gritty way that everything seems to be going towards. But just trying to be honest. So those were all the questions. That's exciting. Really, thank you for that questionnaire. It really forced me to think about what I watch, why I watch it, which is something I always try to do anyway, but sometimes you don't get so in-depth about it when you're questioning yourself. So that was a lot of fun. I really liked that. See you guys next week. I don't have an ending to this video.